On the last Can You Overmix Royal Icing video, I did my typical meringue powder in water, mix it till it's just foamy, till the meringue powder basically is just broke down into the water, and then I added the powdered sugar. For this test, I have whipped the meringue powder into soft peaks, as you can see. It's very fluffy. Normally it's real runny, still very watery. This time it's super thick and fluffy. And I'm going to add the powdered sugar and mix it in. And let's find out if this way over mixes the royal icing and causes problems with decorating the cookies. So here we go. Okay, for this test, I'm going to do my standard mix in where I don't overbeat it on this part. I'm just gonna mix in the powdered sugar until it looks like royal icing. The last one I mixed this part for 20 minutes and the icing was perfectly fine. I actually enjoyed it more than I normally do. Okay, so already, to be honest, I had about a quarter of a bag, so maybe a half a pound of powdered sugar I added right away. I've just opened up a fresh bag, and I've only used, normally I would use a full 2-pound bag to this royal icing. I've only used about half the bag now, so another pound, maybe a little less. And it's already really hard to tell that it's not fully mixed yet. I guess because, and I'm on this lowest stir, it's just fast, but I guess because the egg whites were so whipped, not the egg whites, the meringue powder, you know what I mean. I guess because it was so whipped and white, where normally it's more watery and clear, it's kind of hard to tell if it's ready or not this way. So I don't know. So this is what normally happens. It normally gets a little thicker. Let's scrape it in. But it just looks a little different. Now, I've read that, you know, this could be a way to get a big puffy, fluffy icing. And we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit more. Hopefully that doesn't flip out too much. My stir seems pretty fast on my end. All right, that's pretty thick, which is what I normally experience, because I'll usually add just a touch more water at this point to get it a slightly thinner, more flood consistency is what I shoot for. That way it's easy to tweak later. I just find it easier to start with it a little thicker. That's pretty darn thick. I'm going to thin that out just a little bit. You see the icing's not falling back into the other icing, so that's not a flood consistency right there. We get just a little bit of water. Doesn't take much. Alright, I've got a tablespoon here. Let's start with that. Alright. That's still pretty stiff. I'm going to add another tablespoon. Oi. Can get my tripod to agree with me here. Actually just black that out. It's still pretty thick. It's almost marshmallowy due to the meringue powder whipping. It is starting to work its way back into the icing, but I'm still going to add another tablespoon of water. And I'm just wanting to mix it just enough. You know, we don't want to over mix it, right? That's the whole premise of this. Oops, sorry, I didn't realize I was off like that. Trying to get under that paddle and watch the icing fall back in. That's a little bit better. I'm still going to add just a tiny bit more, not quite a full tablespoon here. See how that looks. That looks a lot better. That looks more like a flood icing. Moving, it's flowing, and it's falling back into the bowl. It's smoothing out. So to me, that's a good flood icing. All right, bag it up and see how it pipes. So already, I can tell this royal icing is much lighter. You can just tell there's a lot more air that's been incorporated than the regular way. It's much lighter in the bag. It feels much more like a marshmallow. If you've ever made marshmallows, you know that royal icing is not that far off from making marshmallows. So it kind of makes sense that it has a marshmallowy texture. But I did just want to note that, to point that out, that, you know, this has, oops, get in there. This definitely, you can feel, has more air and is lighter and fluffier. That, I don't know what that's going to mean for piping, but, you know, we're going to find out. All right, I bagged all of the icing from that batch and then made a decision as I was cleaning up that I was going to take one bag. So this is of that same batch where I beat the meringue powder till it was fluffy. And I am going to whip this for 20 minutes like I did the first time. Or not whip it, but beat it. It won't be whipped because it's not using the whisk. With the paddle, it's beating. So, 20-minute timer on the oven. And I'm just going to let that go for 20 minutes like I did the other one. And we'll see if there's a difference. Okay? All right. Here we go. Now, this has whipped beaten for 20 whole minutes, just like the first video. And my hypothesis is, based on what I know about meringue powder, or meringue in general, egg whites, is when you whip them, you're incorporating air. You're adding air to the egg whites. When you beat them like this, you deflate them. So my hypothesis is that this royal icing is going to be much more similar to the original overbeaten royal icing. Just because we've literally beat the air right back out of it that we added when we whipped the meringue. Oh yeah. So see, it's way more runny. I have not added any water, anything. I just put it in here and beat the air right back out of it, essentially. So that is so runny. That's terrible. I would have to add powdered sugar to that just to make it a flood, because that is just gonna pour right off the cookie. So, but I'm gonna, in the name of science, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pipe it right side by side with the overbeaten meringue icing, just to see for sure. You know, the side by side is what matters, right? So I'm not going to tweak it. I'm not going to change it. I just want to see what happens. Yep. And again, you know, the beating, the piping, all of that, you know, we do notice changes in the royal icing, but what's really going to tell us what's good and what's not good is once the cookie is dry. That's ultimately what we're going to find out once the cookie is dry, if we're going to have any issues with the icing due to this insane overbeating. So I'm going to mark this bag so I know which one it is, and we will pipe. Okay, so this was that overbeaten egg white, and it's been sitting back here for just a couple hours. I was busy, and anyway, you can see already how it's separated. You see that line right there? But this is one thing I recall last time I tried this. It's so, like, it feels pressurized. So let's see. Yeah. I'm not even squeezing that. I'm literally just holding it. And it just pours out. So anyway, it separated real bad. Good Lord. So I wanted to rebag it. It's nice and fluffy. It definitely looks like some glossy meringue. But just all that air. It's so pressurized, and I knew that was coming. I picked it up and I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna blow. So anyway, let me rebag that and get to piping. We'll see what happens. Okay, even after I had rebagged it, when I clipped the tip of this, it erupted. So this is just a practice cookie, so I'm not going to wear gloves. So I just want to see. It's so airy, like you can see, well, you probably can't. I can see the bubbles in the icing. That you can't pop. I mean, there's no way to pop all those. I mean, yeah, I guess it's puffy, but so many air bubbles that you can't see. It's like, I mean, it looks like big porous skin. That's what it looks like. I don't even think tapping it's gonna help it. Might bring them to the top and make them more visible, actually. I better stop. Yeah, I don't think I like that at all. I know you, oh, you can kind of see. Oh, come on, focus right there. You see? You can see that one. You can see it a little bit. Come in the light a little better. Maybe you can see. I don't know. Anyway. Let's see what happens when it dries. But I'm thinking I'm going to need to re-beat it like I did the other one. Okay, so there's that one. That's the beaten meringue. And then this was the one I marked, because that's the one I overbeat the meringue and then overbeat the icing itself for another 20 minutes. So a little bit of push behind it. Now I'll tell you, my regular icing doesn't really do that, hardly ever. So, whoa, okay, that's separated too. Look at that. I didn't even notice, but it did. It separated real bad. Okay, so I better scrape that off. Clean that up, because that's a hot mess. Wet rag to clean that up. Okay. Oh, that's so bubbly. It's really crusty too. Sheesh. Okay. Like there's a lot. It's almost like the bubbles you get when you dip. when you set your, to make the dipped. So many bubbles. Okay. Let's see if we can't. Let's see, it's so much runnier. Look at that. That was, ugh. That is so runny. There's no way I can pipe with that. That's, even flood. There's just no way. So I overwhipped the meringue and then overbeat the icing, and it is just not even hardly coming back together. Yucky. Okay. We definitely need to add some powdered sugar to that sucker. Now when I tweak my icing, I showed this in another video, I don't have any set measurement of how much powdered sugar or water or whatever I add. I knew that was going to take a lot, so I added a lot. If I add too much, well, then I'll just add a few spritzes of water with my spray bottle and thin it back out a little bit, but that's going to take a minute because it's so thin. Still so thin. Oh my goodness. Very good. Thank you. Whoops. Gosh, this may wind up having to go into 2 bowls. That usually happens when I accidentally put too much water in it trying to thin it out. Okay, I had to go help a customer, sorry. Alright, so we're a little more flood consistency and not water consistency. It's still a little thin. It's still a little thin. Just a little bit more. Eh. You'll see my powdered sugar fly across because I have a tabletop fan that's drying my other cookies, so it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Alright, that's a little better. Okay, I can work with that. I only had to add a cup of powdered sugar, practically. Alright. Sorry. Bumped everything all over the place. It's gonna take two bags because these are smaller bags, but maybe. It's going to surprise me. No, it's just going to be a really stuffed bag. That happens too. Oh, yeah. Okay. Not too bad. Not too bad. Alright. My powdered sugar fly away here. But again, we're just playing right now, so no big deal. Okay. Looking at the camera, not my cookie, making a mess. Alright. That's much better. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so it looks like I can really see the air bubbles all over the cookie. I mean, if you look close, you're not going to be able to really see it in a camera, unfortunately. But I can see it, and I'm telling you right now, it's visible. It almost looks like sand or something, you know, it just doesn't look good. And then this one looks pretty normal. There's a couple like just air, you know, normal air bubbles, but it's already starting to crust, so I'm not going to fiddle with it. But, I'd say if you're over whipping your meringue powder with the water, if you're trying to, you know, whip that up and get it full of air, that's probably where you're making your mistake. That's probably where your over mixing is coming from, because it already doesn't look good. But it does appear perhaps that rebeating it back down with the paddle afterward may fix the problem. Which, if you didn't overbeat the meringue in the first place, you wouldn't have to if you didn't over whip the meringue in the first place, you wouldn't have to overbeat the icing to bust all that air back down. We'll see how it really plays out tomorrow when these are dry, and that'll really give us the final verdict on this. But I'm just already going to say, you know, definitely if you're, you know, whipping that meringue trying to get some sort of puffy icing or something, you're probably causing yourself more trouble than you realize. So anyway, we'll see tomorrow how these guys look. And I will just put a little, I'm gonna mark these. I'll be able to tell from the air bubbles. I pretty much can guarantee you that, but yeah, well, I'll just put a little notch right there. We can see our little notch. That's our overbeat egg whites, or meringue powder. So, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. All right, this is gonna be a shaky video because I got you off the tripod, but I've got the 2 cookies I decorated last night. This, or iced, I should say. This is the one with the double overbeaten icing. And you can see I'm getting my thumb in it because it's not completely solid just yet. It's only been sitting here for maybe 12 hours. So it's still a little soft. But anyway, it looks pretty normal. I didn't spend much time fiddling with air bubbles. But it's nice. You see, like, you can see those 3 right there in the light, and a couple of big under ones, or ones that are under the surface there. But I didn't spend a whole lot of time fiddling with air bubbles. So that looks like a pretty normal iced cookie. So that was the one I over whipped the meringue powder and then beat it back down for another 20 minutes to deflate those air bubbles. Okay. And if you remember last night, I notched the one that I just over whipped the meringue on. Now, surprisingly, it's not giving into my finger the same way. This one I can just push and it's not, see, this one I'm pushing good and it's not giving already. And I did them within, you know, 5 minutes of each other. So that's interesting to note. But I know you can see all those little spots, those little speckles. That's air bubbles. And there's just a bunch of them. It's crazy. All the little speckles. So, I don't know, it's interesting that this one's not as stiff. Oh, that one you could hear. I heard that. I mean, I don't know if you could hear it, but I heard it. Oh, but look. Look. Oh, here's our... Oh, interesting. Let me put this on the tripod. Hang on. Okay, so I've got this on the tripod now. Like I said, these have been sitting for about 12 hours. That one looks very normal when I break it. The icing, even though it's not completely solid, it's firm. Like, I would bag this cookie. I would totally bag it. It's firm enough for that. This one, I just noticed, is much more snappy, like, than this one was. That's a soft, except this is like snappy. And it's got that nasty, gritty. Like, look at the difference. Okay, so this is where I deflated all the bubbles. It's nice and soft. And this is like a chalky, oh man, that is just not pleasant at all. That grittiness. And that could be where some of the cookiers are getting, you know, they'll take a bite and that whole thing will come off and just fall off. And that's nice. It's really nice that it's so hard right now. I mean, that's way harder than this, which is so interesting. Maybe because of the air displacement. I don't know, but let's see. Let's take a bite of it. It's definitely got a weird texture. There is an odd texture to that cookie. That's totally normal. That's what I expect it to taste like. You can see my teeth mark there. All that did was just crunch off. So, it looks like the verdict, I would say, with this whole overbeating issue, this overbeating icing issue, is if you're having issues with your icing being crunchy, breaking off the entire cookie, and that's what I've seen, like this whole sheet will just break off, and it might do that tomorrow or even later today, I don't know. But I'm gonna say you're whipping your egg whites way too much. Go down to just incorporating the meringue into the water, and then go ahead and add your powdered sugar where you can still see water. Don't whip them, because you're going to get some nasty stuff going on. It doesn't pipe very nicely. It's very speckly, and then this after is just not pleasant at all. I would much rather eat this cookie. Thank you. This one. I'll go about that. Okay? All right. Well, I hope that was informative, and we'll see you next time. Bye.